The collapse of money in ancient Rome is a long and complex journey that stretches across centuries and reaches deep into the political and social life of the empire. It is not only a tale of coins losing silver or values slipping in markets. It is a story about human confidence and how an entire civilization can rise on the strength of trust and fall when that trust breaks apart. Rome did not crumble in 1 year or 1 generation. Its financial system weakened slowly as leaders made choices that seemed practical in the moment but destructive in the long term. What follows is a deeper and longer exploration of how this process unfolded and why its lessons still matter. In the early empire, coins carried weight in more than one sense. They were heavy and made of real precious metal, which allowed a farmer in Gaul, a merchant in Egypt, and a soldier in Britannia to trade with certainty. The denarius in particular held a reputation for steadiness. It traveled across the empire because people believed in its content. The silver within it made the coin valuable anywhere it was accepted. This belief created a vast network of trade that supported millions of people. Grain moved from fertile regions to crowded cities. Metals came from mines in Spain. Textiles from the eastern provinces flowed west. All these exchanges relied on money that held real value. Yet even in those early centuries, pressures began to build. Rome was an enormous empire, and every expansion required soldiers. Soldiers required payment and loyalty. Roads needed repairs. Fortifications had to be built. Provinces demanded administration. These needs grew every decade, and the money to meet them had to come from taxes or the treasury. Collecting taxes in such a huge empire was never simple. Some regions resisted taxation. Others suffered from poor harvests or internal unrest. The treasury faced recurring shortages. Instead of shrinking the size of the state or raising revenues through more efficient means, the leadership began to quietly weaken the coinage. This choice seemed small at first. A slight reduction in purity was not enough to alarm the general population. But once the process began, it became hard to stop. Silver purity fell little by little. Officials knew that removing even a small amount of silver meant more coins could be produced. More coins meant more payments could be made to soldiers and workers. As long as the face of the coin did not change, most people accepted the new money without question. However, this short-term solution created long-term damage. Every decrease in silver content planted a seed of doubt. Over decades, these doubts grew into widespread awareness that Roman money no longer held the same substance as before. As the empire entered the 3rd century, the pace of debasement accelerated. Political struggles became frequent. Emperors rose and fell at a rapid pace, sometimes lasting only months on the throne. Each new ruler needed the loyalty of the legions. Loyalty came at a high cost. Higher pay for soldiers became the most immediate and effective method to secure power. But the treasury was already strained, so minting more coins from less silver seemed like the only option. This choice began a dangerous cycle where political survival depended on financial decay. With every new minting wave, prices rose. Merchants who once accepted a single coin for a basket of goods now demanded several. Food became expensive. Clothing cost more. Transportation fees increased. Sellers raised prices to keep up with the falling value of the money they received. Everyday citizens felt the pressure first. Families struggled to buy grain. Urban workers found that wages did not keep up with rising costs. The wealthy protected themselves by buying land or storing goods. The poor suffered most as their savings lost value month after month. By this stage, the empire was caught in a spiral. As coins became weaker, prices climbed. As prices climbed, the state needed even more coins to pay soldiers and maintain order. The more coins it produced, the weaker those coins became. This loss of stability caused many people to hoard older and purer coins. These older coins vanished from circulation, and only the weaker coins remained in day-to-day trade. This made the entire economy even more unstable. The rise of barter was one of the clearest signs that trust in money had collapsed. In rural areas, farmers traded grain directly for tools, livestock, or clothing instead of using coins. In border regions, soldiers demanded payment in food or land rather than currency. These changes show how far the monetary system had fallen. When a society returns to barter, it no longer has a unified economy. Instead, it becomes a patchwork of local exchanges. Communication between regions weakens. Unity erodes. The government attempted reforms. Some leaders understood the seriousness of the crisis and tried to restore silver purity. They issued new coins meant to symbolize a return to stability. They introduced strict laws that tried to freeze prices at certain levels. But price controls created tension because merchants could not sell goods for less than what they were worth. Many simply stopped selling altogether. Markets emptied. Black markets appeared. The gap between the official economy and the real economy widened. The famous reform attempts of Diocletian reveal the depth of the crisis. He reorganized the empire into smaller administrative units to reduce corruption. He increased the size of the army in an attempt to strengthen the borders. He issued new coins with more secure metal content. Yet all these efforts were crushed by the same underlying weakness. The empire spent more than it produced. Its military commitments were too large. Its borders too long. Its political environment too unstable. No single reform could outweigh the long buildup of structural problems. Another factor often overlooked is the decline in population due to disease and continuous warfare. When fewer people remain to work, the land tax revenue falls and production slows. This makes it harder for the state to gather enough resources. To compensate, leaders minted more money and spread the financial burden across the population. This further weakened the economy and led to more inflation. Declining population also meant fewer soldiers, and this placed even more stress on the frontier defenses. The collapse of money influenced every layer of society. Landowners refused to pay workers in weak coins, so they formed binding agreements to keep workers tied to the land. This system became the early shape of medieval serfdom. City dwellers who once thrived on trade now struggled to find stable income. Artisans closed workshops. Merchants left cities. The economy shifted from a dynamic urban network back to localized rural production. Trade routes that once stretched across the Mediterranean began to shrink. Long-distance merchants could not rely on the value of Roman currency, and so they reduced their activities. Eastern traders demanded payment in precious metals instead of Roman coins. As these metals left the empire, the internal supply of real silver and gold diminished even more. This created a shortage of strong money that the empire desperately needed. By the late 4th and early 5th centuries, the Western Empire was financially hollow. Its cities needed support, but the central government could no longer provide it. Its armies required pay, but the mint could no longer produce reliable currency. Local commanders acted independently because they could not rely on distant authority. Provinces drifted apart. When external forces such as Gothic tribes or Vandals pressed into Roman borders, the state lacked the financial strength to mount an effective response. The collapse of money weakened the empire long before any city walls fell. The Eastern Empire survived longer because it managed its finances more carefully and maintained stronger trade connections. The eastern regions had more stable cities and wealthier tax bases. They also preserved more of their precious metal reserves. This division explains why the Eastern Empire lived on as the Byzantine Empire while the Western Empire disintegrated. Financial stability played a major role in this split. The final stage of the Western collapse came when Roman authority lost the ability to pay its troops at all. Without payment, soldiers deserted or joined rival leaders. Some accepted land instead of money. Others joined invading groups. The last Roman rulers held titles but not real power. Cities once filled with life shrank to small towns. Great monuments stood abandoned. A civilization that had dominated the known world could no longer maintain the basic function of money. Rome's monetary collapse teaches a timeless lesson. A currency is not strong because of the image stamped on its surface. It is strong because people believe that the issuing authority is responsible, disciplined, and capable of maintaining its value. When leaders treat money as an unlimited resource, they risk destroying the very trust on which their system depends. Rome ignored these warnings for too long. The result was inflation, social breakdown, economic fragmentation, and eventually political collapse. The story is not simply about coins or silver. It is about confidence, discipline, and long-term thinking. It is about the dangers of relying on short-term solutions to fix long-term problems. It is about how a mighty empire can crumble when its currency loses meaning. Rome did not fall only to external enemies but to the erosion of its financial foundation. The lessons echo through time, reminding every society that money is a promise. When that promise is broken, everything built upon it begins to fall.